All right, I have 5:30. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. And if we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. We want to mention that the purpose of our meeting tonight is for the board to conduct board business. The meeting is open to the public and is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board docs through our district website. This meeting is being presented via Zoom. Do want to remind folks that it's not appropriate for audience members to interrupt board business or ask questions during the meeting. Agenda items will be listed in the agenda. And in case of emergency, please exit the room using the exit closest to you. And Director Halverson, would you care to share our vision and mission statement?
Sure. Our vision, our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive. And our mission, in connection with our community, the Sequim School District empowers staff to inspire hope and provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so each student thrives.
Thank you very much. Director Jeffries, would you care to share our land acknowledgement?
Yeah, we acknowledge the land we stand on. The Sequim School District administrative and school buildings sit on the ancestral land of the S'Klallam people. While S'Klallam traditionally come from one nation, history has led to the formation of three sovereign S'Klallam tribal governments. Lower Elwha S'Klallam tribe located in Port Angeles, Jamestown S'Klallam tribe located in Sequim, and Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe located in Kingston, Washington. The district primary partnership is with Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. Today, the tribe and district share a partnership that includes official consultation on program and funding changes that may directly affect American Indian and Alaska Native students, as well as holistic service planning for students to remain successful in their educational journeys.
Great, thank you very much. And next, that's going to bring us into our special presentations portion of the agenda. I want to go ahead and start off by mentioning that this is our Developmental Disability Awareness Month. And March marks Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and it's a time to spotlight the inclusion of individuals with developmental disabilities in our communities and to raise awareness and foster inclusion of people who experience intellectual and developmental disabilities. This month emphasizes celebrating their contributions while acknowledging and addressing existing barriers in schools and communities. The focus is on promoting inclusion, respect, and support, urging communities to embrace diversity for a thriving environment. And this is, of course, something certainly near and dear to me. And one of the things that I think of with this is a lot of times these disabilities can be invisible as well. They don't necessarily present themselves. So I think it's always important that we're keeping that in mind, and particularly as it relates to our students as well, because sometimes they might be experiencing it and not even be able to verbalize it at times. So but yeah, it's certainly important, and I'm glad we're bringing awareness to it this month. Anything to add?
Well, our life skills programming in our school district is very strong, and the relationships that are built with our students who do struggle with some of the most significant disabilities is very supportive. So the intent of this recognition, I would say, is alive and well in our school district, and we're very appreciative of the staff and the families we're working with to support our students.
Great, thank you. Also, want to mention that March 18th through the 24th is School Retirees Appreciation Week, which is certainly important. I believe we have a couple of couple couple
Yes,
retired, yeah,
Mhm.
couple retired. I just, sometimes I don't even think of you two as retired because you're failed retirement in a sense. But do want to mention, of course, that it's also our time to appreciate those that have served before and are trying to take some time potentially. And I do have a proclamation. Whereas Washington State recognizes the accomplishments of all retired school employees. And whereas it is important to acknowledge the value of educating and assisting retirees in meeting the special challenges retirement brings and work to improve their general welfare. And whereas school retirees and organizations like the Washington State School Retirees Association aid in advancing education by supporting high educational standards. And whereas school retiree organizations such as the WSSRA promote group and individual involvement in charitable projects and activities, sponsor scholarships, and maintain interest and participation in education and community activities. And whereas retired educators are encouraged to remain active in the education profession through volunteer activities associated with learning. Now, therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim March 18th through the 24th, 2024 as School Retirees Appreciation Week. In Washington, I urge all people in our state to join me in this special observance. Signed this 30th day of October, 2023, Governor Jay Inslee. So, and not just to those on the board, but just to, I know we have a lot of folks in our community even that are, of course, retired educators. So some that are actually quite a few that are active within our schools as well. So of course, thank you for them continuing to be involved.
I would say that each week I inevitably speak with a volunteer who has retired either from our system as an educator or maybe a different system. But the commitment to education does not stop. And the legacy that they leave through either being substitute for us or the volunteerism or being involved in community outreach that is benefiting our school and our students in other ways. It's actually amazing in our community. And I'd like to thank everyone for that. When we think about our move last spring, we had 269 volunteer hours in that activity, and several of those hours were through retired educators. So thank you so much.
All right, and that's going to bring us to 2.03. We have a letter of support for Habitat for Humanity of Clallam County, and we have special guest Colleen Robinson. Welcome.
Thank you so much to the board and to the community and the staff that are here this evening. I was here just about a year ago. Habitat has an ambitious goal of 50 affordable housing units on Sequim Avenue and Brownfield Road here in Sequim. We anticipate about $6 million in infrastructure and development before we put a shovel in the ground to build a house. And when I came last year, I asked for a letter of support as we were going for a congressional set aside for Representative Kilmer, for which he awarded, and it was $2 million. And we were very excited. And when the final budget was written, we got 800,000, which as a fundraiser and leader of a nonprofit left us with a $1.2 million deficit. So we're going again this year for another congressional set aside. Both Senator Cantwell and Senator Murray have approved us applying for their set aside money. And so I'm looking to the school district for a letter of support again for this second application. Did you have any questions?
Was there a draft letter up on the board?
We'll have a draft that will, but yeah, certainly an opportunity for questions if folks have any.
What I would like to share are a couple of points about this. Of course, the need for housing is evident, and as we move toward wanting to increase our enrollment, every opportunity we can have for families to choose Sequim is an important one. So this support would be wonderful for our school system. Secondly, we see an intersection with Habitat for Humanity regarding building construction and moving forward with our building construction trade curriculum and having an application opportunity with Habitat for students to actually build. So that level of movement is great. But I also just want to speak to the support for Habitat. You may or may not know that on Friday evening, Colleen and her team at Habitat were awarded from the Economic Development Council for their work. So I want to recognize you and your team for that. It was absolutely so strong. So to have a partner with that degree of intent and planning, organization, and follow through, I don't think we can go wrong.
Last year, there were over 60 applications just to Senator Kilmer's office, and they picked 16. And ours ranked in the top 3. And part of that was the letters of support that we received, including the one from the school district. So thank you for your support last year. Looking forward again this year. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. And so we do have that as a, as an item later on in the agenda, and I'm not anticipating any debate on that, but we'll certainly get to that when we get there. All right, and so that is going to bring us to 2.04. We have our school bus delivery walkthrough. So we're going to be leaving, right?
Correct.
All right.
So this is an exciting opportunity. And before we get up to depart the room, I just would like to welcome our director, Don Hall, to the podium to introduce what he would like you to do next as we exit to go look at our beautiful new school bus.
Good evening. Prior to my arrival, my predecessor ordered 4 buses. They have started to arrive. All of them are in the state. 2 are now here. 2 are still somewhere between Spokane and Seattle. They should be here soon. So when we exit, the bus is in the bus lane, as it should be in a bus lane with the door to the curb. So when we come out, there's going to be some special things I would really like to show you, some things that are going to be enhancing safety for the buses, as well as, for people traversing on the roadway, our students who are being picked up and dropped off, as well as new technology inside the bus that I'm really excited to show off. So with that, away we go. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for arranging for that. That was great. And it's exciting to see how the technology is advancing, and that's just great news for the students and the parents and, just everybody involved. So thank you.
And it's really safety first, and I appreciate that too.
Excellent. All right. Desara, did you have any thoughts or comments on it?
No, I thought everything was wonderful. It looked very modern and new. And so I'm excited for that to see that at our school.
Excellent. All right. All right. And we're gonna be getting a additional two more in, right? We've gotten 2 and the next 2 are coming.
Correct. And they are in the state. So we're just waiting for delivery.
Excellent. All right. So with that, that's going to bring us to the approval of our minutes, agenda, and consent agenda. You've all had a chance to review that?
Yeah, I would request that we pull the 5.08 donations out, only because there's a donation from one of my businesses, a vehicle to the automotive shop, so I shouldn't vote. I'll abstain from voting on that particular one.
Okay. Yep, that would be certainly appropriate. So we'll go ahead and move that down to an action item. Anything else?
I just want to comment that I think it's so terrific that in these challenging times, we get these donations from the community, including businesses in the community, that we have a couple that I would like to just highlight. The Brian and Allison Bowers Scholarship donation for students who don't receive any scholarships. I think that is really a thoughtful and caring gift. And the Buddy Broker donation to the Gray Wolf Fence. And I think that too is something that is a great contribution from the community.
Alright. And so is there any objection to the approval of our minutes, previous minutes, agenda and consent agenda, excluding the donations item? Hearing none, we will consider those approved. And that is going to bring us to our public comment portion of the meeting. And if you are attending the meeting via Zoom, you can indicate if you would like to make public comment by using the raise hand feature down at the bottom of your screen. And we will go ahead and record your name. Go ahead and do that now if you have a desire to make public comment. And do you want to just mention our guidelines for public comment? We do set aside time for public comment. It's a total of 30 minutes and each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes. Do want to remind folks, public comment is not a time for dialogue between the board and the public. And the board doesn't respond to statements, questions, or challenges made during public comment period. And so there isn't back and forth dialogue. However, do want to make sure that it's known that the board's silence is neutral. It's neither a signal of agreement nor disagreement with the speaker. And though the board does not engage in dialogue, the board chair may ask a speaker a clarifying question. It is also possible that school district staff will contact a speaker at a later point in time to follow up on an issue raised during the public comment period. Finally, please remember that your words have impact and you, not the school district, are responsible for your words. And caution all speakers that it is possible that your statements could violate the rights of others under various laws, including laws protecting privacy and laws prohibiting defamation. If you are unsure of the legal effects of your remarks, you should seek independent legal advice. In any case, we ask that you help us model for our students what a respectful and inclusive community looks and sounds like. And in the interest of time, order, and respect for others, we do remind folks that it's not appropriate for complaints or charges about employees to be mentioned during public comment. These issues are to be addressed to the superintendent in writing. And with that, our sign-in sheet, I do believe we have first, we have George. Is George here? Hi, George.
Hello, my name is George Stuber. I'm a former school bus driver here for 31 years. I've enjoyed working for Sequim School District, but I've seen a lot of things happen with the Sequim School District in my 31 years. One of them is this island that's out on Sequim Ave here. The way the bus is parked now, that's the way the buses used to come in here for field trips and to unload kids and students. Now we come in the opposite way where we have vehicles that try to run over the students. And trying to get help out there for any events is really hard. But then I was here when we had the 2 bell system, where we'd go out and we pick up the high school, middle school students, bring them in, drop them off, and then go out and pick up elementary and bring them in. That was a very wonderful thing because it really helped out the middle school and high school students that had to do extra work. They could catch the second bus home. So that way they were able to get their grades up, and we had really good progress with that. The stadium lot, I was the safety officer for many years at transportation office. Tried numerous times to get signage there for not letting the public park in there when the buses come in. When I was here, we'd have to call the transportation office to have them call Helen Howell to get people out there to move their vehicles when the buses would come in. It was really hard for the bus drivers. And it really made us late on getting in there and everything. Talking with Don here, I like the idea of the buses pulling into each building to really protect the students. Because even in the stadium lot, I've seen cars come rushing in there and almost hit students. And so I really think that this is something that we need to go back to for the safety of the students, to a two-bell system, because it's really very beneficial. So I thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Let's ready with that. Anybody online? Okay. And that will go ahead and conclude the public comment portion of the meeting, and we will shift next to our student board representative report.
Good evening, everyone. The warm weather these days got us very excited for spring to be here and also excited for the school year to be over. This Saturday, the high school cafeteria will take place the spring formal from 7 to 10 p.m. with the theme being Roaring 20s. Talent show is coming up. The auditions will be on March 27th and March 28th after school here at the high school library. The show will be at the auditorium April 12th at 6 p.m. and April 13th at 2 p.m. I invite everyone to come and watch, and keep in mind that the second night of the talent show, April 13th, the winners will be chosen by the audience. One last thing, the senior class will be having another fundraiser takeover with Domino's. The takeover will be on April 8th from 5:30 to 7. Please order pizzas because the senior class will get 50% of the profits. Thanks all, and that's all I had for today.
Thank you, Desai. Okay. We're going to go ahead and keep moving along. Next, we have our reports to the board, and we're going to start with our McKinney-Vento report.
All right. Hi, I'm Kathy Borum. I'm the McKinney-Vento and Attendance Liaison for the Sequim School District. And we have Cadence Carey. She's employed from Olympic ESD 114, and she is based here at the high school to work with our students at the high school level. And we also, each school has a building point of contact, which is the counselor. So there's many people that support our students and families in the McKinney-Vento program. She trusted me with this. There's probably an on and off button. Okay, there it is. Oh, okay. Perfect. So the McKinney-Vento Act is a federal program that serves our and supports our students and families with housing instability. And there is a list here of ways that families qualify. And so we get information from housing questionnaires at enrollment. They can be referred, self-identified, and then we also do it, we do that survey twice a year. And so I'm going to go through some of the numbers for the district and some of the information that we share with families. Okay. So there is some questions about who qualifies for the McKinney-Vento program and what is an unaccompanied youth. And so an unaccompanied youth is somebody that is not in legal custody of their parent or guardian. But when you are meeting with these students, there's a lot of questions that you need to ask because not all unaccompanied youth are homeless. It's really about learning their story. And so I really just wanted to point that out because sometimes I think there's a perception that the numbers are much higher, and it really is it's different for every student and how they qualify. And this is kind of hard to read, but there's a flow chart that is very helpful for the point of contacts, myself and Cadence, that we go through when we are meeting with a student. The big question you want to ask, is this by choice or is it necessity? You might have a student that's in a situation where they're living with another family because it's a choice. Maybe mom and dad had to relocate for a job, and the student it's their junior year and they're like, I really want to finish here. And so they make arrangements to stay with a family so that they're unaccompanied, but they're not homeless. Again, each situation is unique. Each question you need to go through and determine why is this student in this situation. And it's a 2-page little questionnaire that we use. And there's a lot of support from OSPI and the different grants that we're funded by to screen families and students in rather than screen them out. You know, if we were to allow someone into the McKinney-Vento program, and maybe this situation is could go both ways, we're going to bring them into the program rather than not have them join the program. And over to the right, Tracy, I just wanted to, again, to really point out that all unaccompanied youth are not homeless, and they have to qualify to receive McKinney-Vento funds. And so once we go through and we talk to them and we learn their situation, we do an intake, we talk with them, and then we make a list of what kind of resources we can help them with to get their student to school. So the next slide shows some numbers. And the thing is, I did this in preparation because we're prepared. So this was the end of February. The numbers were different this morning when I did a report, and they were even different by the end of the day. So, I mean, it is always changing. But right now, this report says that we had 124 active students at Swim School District that qualified for the program. 22 have left the school for one reason or another. So we have active students, but we still, capture the data for the inactive students. So I broke it down by school. And so, 11 on this date were identified through DVS OPA, 19 Gray Wolf, Helen Heller had 28, the high school had 48, and middle school had 18. And again, those numbers have changed as of today. And then on the right, I listed out of those numbers, how many were unaccompanied and how many were not unaccompanied. So we have our data there. I believe today we're at 152 active students, 152 total, 129 active and 23 inactive. But I think that changed by the time I came over here. So, and then what are the categories that we're finding that our families are in? Doubled up means they're living in someone else's home. They might, one whole family might have moved in with another family. And you ask your question, why? Is this because of economic hardship? Is this due to maybe the student has conflicts with their parents and it's not a good, safe environment to stay at that home, so they move in with another family member? A doubled up also could be somebody that's couch surfing. And I think that's a number and a phrase that is the scariest to our community. And as of now, we do not have any students that have identified themselves as couch surfing. That, you know, maybe there is, and they haven't told us that, but the students we're working with are in the more doubled up. They're living in someone else's home for a reason. Either they've lost housing, they can't afford their housing, or that's where they need to be for their safety. And these categories stay the same. So this is what happened in August and September when we reconnected with our families to see when, you know, we had a list of who was in our program last year, and we checked back in with them to say, what is the situation? Has it changed? And so on that date, this is the information that we had. And then we're doing, you know, Cadence sent me 3 intakes today. So they're always ongoing. But once they're in a category, we don't change it. But one thing that I'm really proud of, when August and September, when we did call families, we had 3 that were staying at a park or in their vehicle, and we were able to connect them with community resources, get them some emergency shelter, and now they are living in a more permanent situation. But once you're in the program, you're in the program for the year. We don't kick you out. You know, we keep serving you. And then we reconnect again next August to say if they're still in the program or not. And then there were a few families that were living in a hotel, and the only families right now that we know of living in a hotel is by choice. It's more of a long-term deal over at the place by Dairy Queen, that they will let them rent month to month. But because it's not a lease that you sign for a year, it's more of a month to month, that does qualify them to be considered, you know, living in a hotel, motel, and be in the program. The unsheltered is a little bit broader. That to me, when we work and look at our families, that's the families that we're most concerned about. They're the families that are maybe living in a little travel trailer on someone's property, so there might not be a bathroom in there. Somebody that is living in a home that there is no running water. And so we've connected them with different resources in the community, or the YMCA to use their locker room for showers. So there's you know, a big range in that unsheltered category. And not homeless means that they were unaccompanied, but it's by choice. So they're unaccompanied, not homeless. So we put them on our lists and we check in with them, but they don't get McKinney-Vento funds. And so some of the things we were going to talk about were the questions we asked. If a family is needing support, we do, the support does need to benefit the student. And the question we ask is, does this support help with removing barriers for the child to attend school? So if it's something that the family is struggling with and they need a resource for the whole family, as a dryer or electricity bill, things like that, we're going to connect them with the community resources. And so our focus is that student in addressing barriers for them to participate in school and have the same opportunities. So.
Clarify back on the doubled up,
Mm-hmm.
is that the category in which students who live with their grandparents are reflecting?
Yes, but if it's not legal, so if it is, we have families that, like, I've had my grandson for 5 years, you know, we have a home, but because it's not their legal guardian, then they are unaccompanied. And so, and then you have to ask why. Is it because parents just moved for another job, or is it because parents couldn't care for them, and it was by necessity? So
Any other questions?
Tell me a little bit about the funding. I know McKinney-Vento, is it enough? Do you need more? Do you use school funds to supplement?
We have 2 grants, the HESUP grant that we'll have to apply for in May to have that continue. And we have an ARP grant. And so if those are gone next year, which that one does end, yeah, right now we're okay, but next year might be very different. So.
All right.
I just had a question about that too. So the funding we get from McKinney-Vento, is that just a flat amount, or is it depends on the number of students enrolled?
That
program?
would be a darling question. That's like Title I and McKinney-Vento, yeah.
Yeah, I think in Title I, there's a percentage that is used for K-Vento. So grant is written, might be different each year, but it's required.
If you could come up to the microphone so the video can hear. Thank you.
So we do have the 2 grants that partially fund Kathy. We should also partially fund it out of Title I.
Okay.
So Title I is McKinney-Vento is housed under Title I. So we use some of the grants to pay for Kathy's salary, some of the grant to pay for resources for students.
I think.
And as that ARP grant goes away, we'll enhance the title funding. So it's kind of year to year based on the need.
Anything else?
I would just like to say a thank you to Kathy. As you see, very thorough presentation, but I would also like you to know that in the transition for her to take over this program, we did not miss a beat. We absolutely had a turnover that was so smooth and meticulous. Her work with Cadence on this has been a tremendous partnership, and to have that relationship with the high schoolers so close and responsive to their needs. I think that we've had very significant support this year. So thank you to you both for your efforts.
Thank you. All right, next is finance and enrollment. Darlene.
All right, good evening. All right, most of this information you've already seen at our board workshop, but we'll go over our budget status reports for the month of February. Let's start with the one that has all 5 funds on it. I think it's the, fund balance. All right, this is all 5 funds for the month of February. And so as you can see in the general fund is 517,538. And in capital projects fund, it's $3,670,099. Hope I can see that and read that right. Debt service fund is $75,131. The associated student body fund is $518,782. And transportation vehicle fund for a very short time is at 1,000,000, I can't read it, 596,000, I think. So we haven't paid for our bus, for 2 buses that are here yet, but we just did the requisition and the invoices are in, and I think that Betsy's processed it, so 2 buses paid for.
You know how much of that money is spoken for already for those buses then?
I think each bus was what, 169,000 maybe, maybe somewhere right in there. So 4 of them. So, yeah. All right, and then let's go to our, that one. All right, this is our general fund activity for the month of February, and it's just broken down so you can see our revenues for the month of February and our expenditures, and percentage of what is actually spent and our balances remaining over at the end. And then I left the blue, and we talked about this at the board workshop, about the percentages and how they matched up from a year ago for where we were in February. And so you can see We're at 44% of revenues received, and last year it was 44.38. And for expenditures expended and encumbered, which is mostly salaries and benefits, at last year it was at 90.22%, and this year it's at 90.33%. We're pretty close. Okay, and then our last report on general fund. It's just broken down in a different way so that you can see salaries and benefits, supplies, materials, purchase services, travel, and capital outlay. And you can see what is current, and there is some encumbrance, of course, mostly salaries and benefits, but there's things happening every day. So a lot of purchase orders are waiting for invoices. All right, and then our enrollment for the month of March. We also talked about this at the board workshop. And so you can see that our enrollment is at 2,556. And I believe that it's down about 14 FTE. And most of that is at the higher grade levels. Any questions?
I'd just like to add a couple of details. Of course, what's important to notice this month is our fund balance. Okay, and we all know that we are in what I would call the gap season, where we have to have the cash flow to make the gap because our apportionment is coming in at such low percentages. And that's just the way that the cycle works. I also would like to bring to your attention that our expenditures this month alone exceeded our revenues. That model, of course, we have the cash flow to cover it, but we'll be projecting out for next year and monitoring that. We are below where we had projected to be for our fund balance this month. We do understand, though, that there are grant claims, for instance, that we do have outstanding. So we will be working on those as that cycle continues, but we'll be continuing to make sure we've got our eye very closely on that pattern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's going to bring us to 8.03 legislative report. Director Jeffries.
Well, as you know, the legislature has wrapped up their short session. They make a big deal out of the short session, but they did have about 1,200 bills introduced and 300 and some passed and are off on the governor's desk. I did put up a couple of them up here that of interest to us. It's by no means all of them. Special education funding, the cap did go from 15% to 16%, which is going to be very helpful to us. It's still not helpful to all districts. So a lot of districts are still advocating for no cap or for a much higher cap. But it will help us out. There is funding, new funding allocations that will help us out, but obviously it won't help us out as much as we'd like it to help us out. So it's still in progress. What I'm hearing is next year it may 16% may not change, but we'll just wait and see. Never know. Let's take a look at the next one, the prototypical school staffing. Chunk of money to modify the prototypical school funding model, mainly increasing allocations for paraeducators, office support, non-instructional aides. Some of that money is going to be coming to us this school year, but I don't know how much. OSPI, the state, the governor's office, OSPI, they're still crunching all the numbers, and what it means for SQUIM is still to be determined. So don't get too excited yet. MTOCs, and I put it up there, material supplies, operational costs, because everybody talks about, they like to talk about men's socks as to shorten it, but MSOC, there is an increase this year, which is going to be beneficial. And we're going to get some of that this year. but we might not get that whole 2.1%. That seems to be still in question. So we'll just see what that means. Again, student food security, to maintain the eligibility, community eligibility provision that we benefit from. So we have free lunch, free breakfast, free lunch for our kids, but there is no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody has to pay for it. That's where this money comes from. So there is more money in there to maintain that. Whether this will be something that'll become permanent is a matter for the feds and the state to work out. And then how much the school district will continue to subsidize meal costs to keep them reasonable. We'll just have to wait and see. Pupil transportation, I didn't have much to say about that. Transportation correction, it gets all kind of confusing, some of this stuff. So again, we're gonna have to wait and see. One of the big discussions was providing money for contract bus drivers so that they could get fringe benefits. OSPI, they're great at, well, not OSPI, the state legislature is great at funding another year of study about this or that before they can finally come to a decision. The SCAP, again, this is very beneficial. It raises the amount of money per square foot they'll pay for new facilities, but it's all dependent on us passing a bond. It's not some money they're just going to give us. It's a matching fund, but they are increasing it and recognizing it's costing more than $200, $250 a square foot to build these days. Let's go on. Of course, the big news that we got earlier was the CET funding, the 4.9 million, $5 million that came out of Representative Theringer's House Capital Budget Committee, which he chairs. So what that means and how we get the money, we're going to find out more about that, but it's great news for SQUIM. So I threw that in there. And 48 other educational related bills. We're going to move through these real quick. Look at it quick and memorize it. I just wanted to give you a kind of a quick overview of all the various education bills that we didn't talk about that may or may not affect SQUIM, or may not affect SQUIM positively, or might be negative. So waiting for all this to sort out, we're just going to have to wait and see. By the way, I got a lot of this information from WASDA. I got this information from WASA. I got this information from Washington Education Association. I got this information from the Washington American Federation of Teachers Federation. I got a lot of this information from the League of Education Voters. So, but they're all kind of in a cohort of a loose configuration of people supporting each other, and they had similar information, but sometimes their numbers were a little bit different. So like I said, we're just going to have to wait and see. So I put them all up there. If you want to look at this presentation, you can enlarge them and read them by bill. And then, oh, by the way, that's 48. There's like 300 other bills, you know, that they also passed dealing with costs of cars and trees and all the other laws that they passed this last time in their short session, which is about half the number of bills they normally pass, which will be coming up. By the way, I mentioned this before, we got about 24 senators and representatives who have announced publicly that they won't be back in their positions next year. There may be more. And of course, the elections play a big, you know, there'll probably be some that might not get reelected. I did highlight Senator Kevin Vandeweghe, who's stepping down from his Senate seat to run for Commissioner of Public Lands, and Mike Chapman, who's stepping down from his representative seat, our representative seat, to run for Senator Vandeweghe's seat. And so I highlighted those. There are some people on there that are chairs of committees that have served quite a while and very important. And by changing, that means we're gonna get new committee chairs. We don't know who they're gonna be. So it could mean a lot of things. And of course, you know, if we're assuming if the Democrats keep control of both houses, that'll mean one thing. If they lose one or both of the houses, that'll mean something else. And I just want the legislative session starts again, I think January 13th. So for the long session. So get ready. It's coming. And I will throw in, Sarah mentioned she was happy for spring. Spring starts tomorrow, March 19th, which is an unusually early start for spring. I'm predicting this January 13th session will come before we know it. And you're going to be hearing a lot about it well before that session starts. And I appreciate you putting up with all the emails and reminders that I've been sending you. And this board, by the way, is very educated and very proactive in finding out what's going on in the legislature. And I really appreciate it. So,
Right. All right. Thank you, Larry. I did find it interesting. You had mentioned, Dee, with the 15% cap going to 16%. And there's already rumors that won't be adjusted again.
yeah,
And
but-
so,
well, but that's.
yeah, we don't really even know what the makeup of the legislator is going to be, right? So I find that,
All of it is rumor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and thanks for also highlighting Representative Theringer as well.
Yeah, all three of our legislators were involved in education bills. They're not necessarily on education committees. Representative Theringer being the chair of the House Capital Appropriations Committee, very important, powerful position.
Yeah.
So
Did any of our representatives sponsor any of the education?
they were
related
sometimes
bills?
co-sponsors. But
Okay.
usually they're on other committees doing other things. By the way, just to mention the other 300 bills, the 1,200 bills that were introduced, they and their staff need to be familiar with all 1,200 of those, because eventually it may come to them to vote one way or the other on those bills. All the bills that came to the floor, the 312, whatever it was they passed, they have to be knowledgeable about each one of those. So it's a major task.
All right. Thank you. All right, that's going to bring us to our superintendent report.
Well, this is a great segue, and I'd like to start off by once again thanking Director Jeffries for this report and for the monitoring of the legislation, because advocacy is a pathway for us to be not only very involved, but influential in how legislators are making their way through navigating. And speaking of navigation, Director Jeffries also pointed out to us that WASDA recently had its regional meeting, and that there were resources that came from that meeting that would be beneficial. So we do have a resource packet for you based on those recommendations. So I'll just pass that down. What you'll see in those packets is related to different outcomes from the regional meeting, related to discourse in the community, advocacy, methods for how to best advocate and have community conversation. There is the 10 elements of dignity that I think is highly related to our civility policy as well. And really looking at taking a rubric approach to evaluating what type of discourse we're trying to have and when we're meeting that mark. So thank you for that recommendation, and I hope you find this resource good at your fingertips. Speaking more of legislation, as Director Jeffries pointed out, our CTE local community project in the capital budget did pass the House and Senate. We are still patiently waiting for the governor to sign the budget, and that should happen by March 27th. So we are keeping our eye there. I would like to let you know that the Economic Development Council did have its annual banquet and awards gala on Friday evening. And I was an attendee at that evening and had the pleasure of seeing Representative Theringer and being able to speak to him about the progress we've already made since being alerted that we do have this line in the capital budget. And Ned is here, of course, and has met with part of our CTE advisory group to talk about how we take the next steps to forward the project, which is very exciting. I also had the pleasure of being introduced and have a meeting with Todd Milkey, who is the administrator for the county commissioners. And we talked about submission of a letter that I intend to write regarding ARPA funds toward the project. So we have great momentum going, and we're just waiting for the March 27th signing. Regarding the Economic Development Council, I just want to bring attention to the leadership of Colleen McAleer. She spoke at the gala about the partnership that she has seen burgeoning in our county regarding leadership partnerships, and how there's been what she called a sea change of the partnership between entities, including cities, the EDC itself, Peninsula College, school districts, and other entities to write grants and come together for common goals. And it's proving to be so beneficial for our community and ultimately our students. So I just want to recognize her leadership in that. I'd like to also let you know that I was invited to attend an interview regarding the City of Sequim Comprehensive Plan. And we were able to speak about what we're seeing in our school district enrollment and where we are looking into the demography of that. We do know that there are going to be hundreds of housing starts in our county, and it's very important that we're paying attention to that. And so we have a meeting later this week regarding those next steps. I also was welcomed to come meet the City of Sequim Shiso Sister City meeting regarding Shisho Japan, and talk about retirees. On that committee alone, I believe there are 4 retirees of our school district and from the education sector, and they are still so active in the community and interest to support our students. But I also was able to share so much about our school district and what I think about the future of our students getting engaged in this type of exchange and how important it is that we support this. Likely next year, an exchange may be paused, and that's from the Japanese side because of the earthquake and the city having to expend a lot of resources to address that. But we are talking about how to prepare our middle school students early to be aware of the opportunity and to understand what it could be, so that when the applications come available, they're ready to strike. In addition, Director Mike Sanos and I have met with Phil Partington from OSPI regarding the next steps toward considering our building conditions assessments. So that's exciting, and we are working on that. We did conclude the last of the building finance informational sessions this morning, actually. We went to transportation this morning before the buses rolled, and we were able to have a Q&A and presentation. And we also spoke with district office last week. So we have those completed. I heard Desara mention the Domino's Pizza fundraiser. I'd like to thank all those who participated for the West Side Pizza Senior Class fundraiser. I hope that was very successful for them. And I know a lot of people came by to support that. So well done there. Our district also submitted a recreation and conservation opportunity grant for the resurfacing of our tennis courts. So that was fulfilled, and I have received word back that we have completed the pre-application phase, and we'll be hearing more from that entity soon. And then on Wednesday, you should look for our 3rd Gazette column. We're doing a series now related to different aspects of school finance, and this week we will discuss school budget. So you can look for that. Our tech refresh group had its final meeting, and we will be bringing summary notes once we've reviewed those. But I'd like to thank all of the staff members that came out to be a part of that. And we learned from this first try at focus group approach about some things we can do better next time so that we have more involvement, and it's actually hitting the mark for how staff would like to be involved. So that was very informative. I also would like to say that we have a very strong partnership with West Sound STEM Network. And we have received word that Ned Flater will be working on a limitless network extension from this group. And he will be taking part in a Gates Foundation related effort in Spokane later this year. So congrats and thank you for stepping up to that call, Ned. And we really look forward to this because the grant opportunities that are coming from regional partnerships are going to be very positive for our school district, and we'll have more details as the weeks go by.
Any questions?
Not a question, but I do have a statement. If I wanted to thank Superintendent Nichols. We had 3 swim youth basketball travel teams that had qualified for a to go to the state champions in Spokane. And then the coaches of those teams actually put an end date that was incorrect for the gym time. And so they lost their gym time just before state, reached out to me because I have a child on one of the teams. And I directed them back to admin, said, we'll let admin know and let, see what that goes. And they were very pleased. They said within almost 24 hours, Superintendent Nichols and the admin team was able to get them gym time, offered them weekend time to make up for the day that they had lost. And with good results, and swim was represented with our 8th grade team 1 and 3, our 7th grade team 2 and 2 at state, and then our 4th grade team was 3 and 1. Very, very good representation for swim. So I wanted to thank you for being able to address that on behalf of all of the teams and the parents. They were very appreciative to make that work, and they had a very good time representing swim in Spokane. So thank you.
Great, good to hear. Thank you.
All right, excellent. All right, that's going to bring us to our board business. Yeah. Were we able to add the donation item onto that? Is that? Oh, good. I just wanted to see if that was the first one. All right. So 10.01, do we have a motion to approve the Roca Family Auto Sales donation?
I move that we approve the Roca Family Auto Sales donation.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Just show my appreciation for the Roca Family Auto Sales. All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have one abstention. We'll go ahead and note that. Thank you. All right.
I'd just like to also say thank you on behalf of the district. It really does allow us to move forward in ways that we might not be able to. So appreciation for that. And then secondly, just related to donations, I'd like to make a comment about one of the other donations received from Brody Broker. On the donation itself, it was designated that the project work would be completed within 90 days. And I want to let you know that we have conferred with Mr. Broker about that to have an allowance of the timeline, just because we need time for the project to be designed, set, and have the labor available. And so that has been made as an adjustment.
Next, we have 10.02, the approval of the letter of support for Habitat for Humanity of Clallam County. We have a motion.
I move that we approve the letter of support for Habitat for Humanity, Clallam County.
Thank you. Second?
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes. And that's going to bring us to 10.03 now, which is second reading and approval of policy 5005. Do we have a motion?
I move we approve policy 5005, employment and volunteers, disclosures, certification. I can't read it all up there, whatever it says up there.
Sure, it's about approval.
Okay, requirements, assurances, and approval.
Right, that's what I said.
Yeah. All right, then we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That's gonna bring us to 10.04. We have the WASA Award nomination discussion, and I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve for this, the representatives from the CTE Advisory Work Group for this award. And I'm hoping I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? I just want to share that there was a lot of things that went into this, and I know as a board, we certainly supported it, but this was a folks in our community, city of Sequim, there's so much that went towards this, but our work group on the ground, definitely a lot of folks putting in a lot of work on this. So to me, it just seems like the right thing to do. And that's not to say that there's of course a lot of volunteer activities happening, a lot of folks involved, but given where we've come, this one definitely seems like makes a lot of sense. And now that we've got that first phase done. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. And is that everybody? All right, motion passes. And that's gonna bring us to the WASDA platform revision window discussion. I did want to bring this item up because if there was a proposal to be submitted for and it doesn't necessarily have to be just submitted. A lot of times we think of it as a legislative proposal, but it doesn't have to be. There's two different paths. So it could be legislative, but maybe it's not related to legislative. Maybe it's just the way that WASDA recommends we do business. So there are proposals that aren't legislative that are in the a part of their documents that could be proposed. But if one was going to be submitted, the entire school board would need to vote to approve that by 5 p.m. of our next regular scheduled meeting. So
before the meeting, by 5 o'clock.
Correct.
I see.
So therefore, we would, if there was something that would, and I believe Director Jeffries emailed this out, that if it would need to be, well, I won't say it would have to be approved this meeting, because there is the option of, if there was something, like if somebody did have something they were really passionate about, we could look at calling a special meeting to get that approval in. But my understanding is that they are holding to a very strict timeline with WASDA on the cutoff on these. Now, that doesn't mean they have made adjustments, and sometimes the committee will reach out to you and say, well, we'd like to adjust this and then bring it back to your board and vote, which is what we did a year ago, or almost a year ago. But anyways, I haven't heard from anybody that there's a significant interest thus far in making any proposals.
Did we have a discussion about public records requests and asking for some kind of modification or some kind of adjustment to the policies relating to public records requests?
I think that there are some that address public records. It can get a little challenging though. But I mean, that certainly is something that could be.
I don't know what the wording or the parameters of that would look like, but it does seem that that addressing that issue in some fashion, it's an issue that for a lot of school districts in terms of the resources that have to be allocated to that. And I don't know, because I don't do the day-to-day work of that, I don't probably know what would benefit the people who have to respond to those requests and, the time consuming nature of it and that kind of thing. I mean, obviously, we have an obligation for our records to be public, and I understand that. But it seems like there's the pendulum has swung very far in terms of it being very burdensome, the way that districts are that are required to respond, and the scope of requests that are made, and I don't know. I mean, it just seems to me that to just pretend that that's not an issue, or to not address it is not responsible, because it does take a lot of resources from a lot of school districts. And to say, oh, it's just too hard, so we can't figure out, we can't figure it out, isn't, we ought to be able to do a little better than that. So saying that, I don't have any particular language in mind. I think there are probably people who have looked at that and have some suggestions, that, because I know that it's been on people's minds. So I don't know if that's something we want to, have any input on this time. If you want to wait and see what comes out of the WASDA, process, and we could maybe just support other people's efforts to address that issue.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the only thing that comes to mind for me as something that we might want to proactively have some input on.
Yeah.
I did do a quick search on the current proposals that are carrying forward. I didn't see anything specifically about that. My guess it would be written along the lines of asking the legislature to do a study of the effects, and not just on school districts. Any government agency that's subject to Freedom of Information Act may or may not have input. I think there's other government agencies out there that may be just as overwhelmed as we have been at times. But if there's no specific wording right now, it's gonna, like I said, I don't have anything, specifically a paragraph with a justification. Something may come out from another district, but I was gonna mention, this doesn't preclude us from lobbying our 3 legislators or lobbying other legislators during the interim session here. I mean, we don't
Right.
have to,
Right, it's a different thing,
Yeah,
though.
we
What
don't
we're talking
have
about
to-
is trying to get
we
something
don't have to
up
wait
onto the list of
WASDA's,
WASDA's.
we don't have
Group
to
lobbying.
worship it, having WASDA do it all. If we have things we want to talk about, like the CTE, that really wasn't a WASDA initiative, that was local, more or less. I mean, it was working with our legislators. So if something like that comes along, that might be the kind of thing one of our legislators would sponsor for all government agencies. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do know that there's like 212 standing proposals now that move forward. We'll vote on all of them again in September. And that'll become the WASDA position. If we support it, WASDA will support it. If we don't support it, they'll speak against it. And if it's not on their list, they just remain quiet in the legislation. I don't know how quiet, but the legislation moves forward on its own.
Yeah. One detail that I'll point out that certainly it would fall under this umbrella, although I'm with you. I definitely would appreciate some specifics on it, but certainly there's language around unfunded mandates, which I would certainly say a lot of this would be captured under that for sure, which is this undue burden, and particularly as it relates to smaller school districts as well. Not that it's not a burden on all school districts, because it certainly is, but I do believe that there is some additional challenges with some of the districts our size. So that's definitely something to be captured with just within that language. But again, I think maybe even something more specific.
In general, if it's unfunded, if it's an unfunded mandate, WASDA will bring it to the attention of the sponsors of the bill and not support it. It won't support unfunded mandates, even if it's a good idea.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's just kind of a operational thing that's just what they do.
Director Alverson, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, about the public disclosure, having to, yield up all of these records. We talk about being linked to other entities and legislature, et cetera, and government agencies. I do think that it might be more effective for the school districts themselves to focus on their own situation and come forward as for a bill that just relates to school districts, because there are unique things about school districts, like you were saying about smaller districts that just are overwhelmed and financially destitute, potentially destitute because of this. So I sometimes wonder if the path to success with getting appropriate legislation there is to focus on the school district needs and not so much other governmental entities.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. So definitely something to consider. And so if anyone has like further thoughts on that, particularly between now and the next meeting or before that, please reach out. We can see if it could be somehow accommodated, or we'll see what else is coming that we could potentially be in support of as we go through the process. So yeah. All right. I believe that concludes our business. So we will go ahead and 7:20. Oh, we do. Thank you very much. We will not be adjourning quite yet. We will be going into recess. We're recess for executive session. And we have two items that we'll be discussing in executive session. The board will meet for approximately 45 minutes to evaluate an applicant for public employment and to review the performance of a public employee. So 45 minutes.